Hello and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Tonight we are joined by Michelle Steiner. Welcome to the room, Michelle. How are you this evening?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am doing okay. It's middle of summer, and of course, I have a head cold. So, yeah, I'm perfect.
Oh no.
That's all right. It is
Yeah.
my life. It is my lot in life, but that's all right. We're going to work
Oh.
through it. We're going to work through it.
Yes.
So, go ahead. Okay, I didn't want to make sure I cut you off. I didn't know if you were
Okay.
sitting ready to say
Yes.
something.
No, I'm good. Yep. I
Okay.
am.
Okay, so let's jump right into I'd love for you to tell our guest a little bit about NVLD.
Sure. NVLD is called is considered a nonverbal learning disability, and it doesn't mean that I'm not able to talk. Obviously, I can, but what it means is some of the things, such as I have really good verbal skills, but certain things are really difficult for me, like fine motor skills and visual perception, and also math. That is a big thing. I cannot do math to save my life. and and those things are like math and other things are really difficult for me. But
Mhm.
I have a higher level of being able to communicate and being able to speak.
Nice. Well, I don't feel insulted about the math because I suck at that. So
Of
don't
course.
don't feel
Yes.
don't feel that that's a personal thing against you for the math. I truly suck at math. If I don't see it on paper, I can't physically do it in my head. I'm just horrible at stuff like that. So,
Yes.
now yeah, I feel
Okay.
you. I really do. I I feel your pain on that. Seriously, I really do. If it weren't for my phone, I wouldn't know crap about math. Trust me. Um,
Agreed.
right? Thank God for apps on our phones. Um, so now, if I get this wrong, please let me know. But you're a para educator, am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. I
Awesome. Now, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, I work in a school with students who have disabilities and some of them who don't, as a paraeducator or a teacher's aide.
Oh, okay. So now walk us through a kind of a day when when you go in. What exactly do you start out as your day as a paraeducator?
Well, no day is ever typical, especially when you work with students that have disabilities. But a typical day is I will go into one of the classrooms that's on my schedule, and I will help out a student that needs some extra support in the general education classes. So the teacher will teach their lesson, and I will help them with trying to reinforce the concepts. Sometimes I might retest the students, other times I might help with hearing them read. There's just a lot of different things with that job. And my job basically is to support students in gen ed that have disabilities.
Oh, okay. So it's your days are very active within the school system then, yes?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, we're very very active, very much that we go in and we try to help out a lot of different students in the room. Sometimes I might even be helping students with not only their work but how to advocate as well. A lot of times I get students that will come in. It's like hearing a recording of myself at that age. I hate my learning disability. I wish that I didn't have it, and sometimes they're afraid to ask for help, but I get to be that
Mm.
voice that tells them it's not a bad thing to have a disability, and trust me, you are smart, your brain is just wired differently. And I get to show them ways to advocate. I can remember a couple years ago I had a student that was uh, really struggling in the classroom, and I said, well, why don't we just go ask for help? And she said, oh, no, I don't want to ask for help. And I got that chance to tell her, well, I'll go with you, and here's how you ask for help. And before I knew it, that student was asking for help independently and wasn't scared. And I think that is one of the greatest things of going into my job is being able to help students and to become successful.
Right. So now, what kind of issues do students with NVLD encounter in school, as for example?
Well, a lot of times students they might encounter difficulties with math. Some of them do have where that's really hard for them to just be able to keep up and understand math and numbers. Some of them have issues with spatial relations, so that can be really hard in gym class with being able to keep up with their peers and being coordinated. Other students may struggle socially as well, and sometimes the social struggle can be reading body language. That is one part that you might see someone that has a nonverbal learning disability. They might have a hard time with figuring out uh, how another person's feeling or what another person might be saying. I mean, they can read a lot of cues with that, but just sometimes that can be a hard thing too. And just sometimes just trying to figure out where they fit in can be difficult. Definitely the world is not made for a person that has a disability, so it's about learning how to adapt. And sometimes some of the other struggles just might be with their hand dexterity. I know that that's one of the things I struggle with too, and just my fine motor skills.
Mm, okay. Now, at what age does NVLD typically be diagnosed?
It depends on the student. I can remember I was diagnosed with a learning disability, but that was just an umbrella term whenever I was in school, and that was in kindergarten. But we can see
Oh.
students, yeah, as young as kindergarten, or sometimes students might go through school, and people might think, okay, well, they're just not good at math, or they're not going to be the next athlete, and when it sometimes that can really be an indicator that that person might have a nonverbal learning disability.
Hmm. That's interesting. So now, you yourself, when you were diagnosed, what kind of obstacles did you find out first before you were diagnosed? I mean, I know you got diagnosed pretty early, but was there any signals that your parents or something told you along the line that was a big prominent thing that made you aware of what your disorders were?
Sure. Whenever I was very young, my kindergarten teacher was the first to recommend that I get tested for having a learning disability. When I was very young, it was difficult for me to tie my shoes. I also struggled with dot to dot pages with the visual spatial skills. I would get my paper and I thought, okay, I'm going to complete this. And I thought, I did it right. And when I got it back, no, it wasn't done correctly. I also struggled
Mm,
with counting and I had difficulty with social skills. And part of that, though, was I was an only child for 13 years. So I was used to being around adults. So it was really difficult when I got into school and I had peers, and I also was bullied for having a disability once I was diagnosed. Everybody knew that I went to learning support. Everyone in that town was a very small school district, so I couldn't blend in. And
mm,
people, yeah, soon labeled me.
yeah. It is hard in school. I'll be honest with you. I was bullied a lot in school as well.
Mhm.
So I understand. And to be able to have something different even is harder for children to come forward, I would assume, because you're instantaneously labeled or feel that you're segregated in some sort of way. So being different is like a very scary thing to happen. So I can't
De-
even imagine. Go
Definitely. And
ahead.
that, yeah, because you're different and it was a small
Yes.
school district, so not a lot of people had a lot of accurate information about what NLVD was. A lot of people just thought that I wasn't smart or wasn't
Mm,
coordinated. And that was hard. And when I was young, it was difficult. But when I got older, it was even more more of a challenge. A lot of the groups
yeah.
became more defined, and I just didn't feel like I fit in with everybody. And I honestly think it's harder for kids now because before you didn't have the internet. So there was
Yeah.
somewhat of a break when you got home. But now a lot of our students, they don't have that break.
Mm. Yeah, it seems like there's more of a requirement on them to push
Mhm.
forward and overcome. I I have to applaud you. I really do, because getting a lot of this as a younger age, I find that I still deal with hangups that happened when I was in school. And to
Mhm.
be able to use things that you've had to overcome and now to go and try to help children do the same thing to overcome the setbacks that have been put in front of them. I immensely want to applaud you. I just want to be your whole pep rally here because I think that is
Oh,
fantastic what you do.
thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I really mean it. It's just a lot. I mean, I think when we are so young, we carry with us all those things. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
it forms you. It really does. It develops you, and you carry that stuff with you. So for you to reach out and do what you do, that's exceptional in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I just love being able to do that and being able to help another student or another person out that has a disability. And I think that it's so much more empowering for me when I focus on the things that I'm good at and I love. If I spend
Hmm.
time trying to do math or drive because I'm not able to drive because of my disability, then I end up being pretty negative or I just feel really down. But if I focus on the things I'm good at, such as reading or writing or sharing my story, then I'm a lot happier of a person. And I think a
Right.
lot of that is sometimes just looking for the good in a situation. I could be sad about not driving, but then I wouldn't literally get to stop and smell the roses. I get that chance to notice details that other people miss, and I get that opportunity to take pictures of flowers.
Hmm. So now let's talk about the writing.
Okay.
We do a lot of writing here as far as we have a lot of authors on our show, and I am an author as well. But
Mhm.
you have written quite a few articles, am I correct?
Yes, I've written articles for the Mighty. That was my very first article that got published about my struggle with opening up a door with limited hand dexterity. I've also had articles published on Nonverbal Learning Project, Kalopina Collective, and I also have one public source. And I also have a blog called Michelle's Mission where I write about life with having my life with having a learning disability.
Nice. What would you say is the biggest challenge as an adult in comparison to when you were younger as a child dealing with NVLD?
I think one of the biggest challenges that I face is a lot of people can't see my disability. So, whenever I need to have accommodations or there's certain things I can't do, and I tell people that, people will look at me and say, "Well, you don't look like you're disabled."
Mm,
And that can be really difficult too, because sometimes I feel like that diminishes uh, my struggle with having one. And I have to be my own advocate. I can remember when I was young, my mom would advocate for me and my dad. And I can remember one day I was listening to my mom talk on the phone about me and advocating for me. I thought, wow, mom's really good at that. People understand me after they speak with my mom. And I remember, well, I had to learn how to do that on my own when I was an adult. So sometimes it can be challenging with dealing with other people that don't always understand the disability and might be saying, well, you should be doing so much more.
mhm. Hmm. To be honest with you, you are very articulate, and if you hadn't expressed it to me, of course, we're not visually seeing each other, but just
Right.
talking to you know what I mean? Just talking to you, I do not get the sense of that. So, I mean, I'm not
Right.
comparing your day-to-day struggles, I know, but, um,
Right.
that actually, I'm sure as the young children that you're dealing with and at young adults, when they see your success, you probably are an inspiration to them.
Oh, thank you. I definitely try to be somebody that they can look up to and just somebody that have with resources to be able to help them, to be able to thrive.
Mhm.
Now, they know I can't help them with math. I'm very, I'm very
Right,
honest about that.
yeah. Oh, well, I'm with you there, girl. I can't do math either, so I'm with you, so don't feel too hard about that one. I'm seriously, I suck at it, like, totally. So, I feel your pain, I really do on that one.
Okay. Oh.
And I don't even want to talk calculus and all that. I'm having nothing with just times and this and regular multiplication. So yeah, I can feel that.
I can only imagine. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's either you get it or you don't get
Oh
it.
man, I'm telling you, that's one thing that I couldn't wait to get out of school. I was like, no, no. And even my senior year, I had accounting. Yeah, yeah. That was not my favorite. Trust me. Nope,
No.
nope,
Well,
nope.
my senior year, I didn't have to take math, and I had
Oh,
learning support math all throughout school. And my learning, I knew I was going to have to take it that year. And my learning support teacher thought I took too much pleasure in ripping up my math pages and threatened
oh.
to make me take math that senior year.
That's hilarious. We had to do lectures in mine. I did a special like a
Hmm.
special program that we had for my junior and senior year. So it was kind of like a joint vocational school. So we had to do lectures and we had to stand up in front of the class and you had to do your own speech. And mine was
Hmm.
my last one that I did was how I was going to rip up and destroy my accounting book. So yeah, I feel you because I was like,
Right.
and in fact, I asked my teacher because we had our last
Hmm.
project that we had to do, and I said, "All right, so if I decide not to do this and I just take an F on this, will I fail?" And he says, "No, but your grade will be." And I'm like, "Will I fail?" And he said, "No, okay, consider putting an F on it because I hate doing
Yeah.
it." I was like, "Yeah, I passed. That's all I care about. I'm not doing it." So yeah,
Yeah. D
I
is
trust me.
diploma, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I did take a D in that class. I will admit it. I'm not proud about it, but I just really hated accounting. I really, really did. It was worse than any type of math. So trust me. Um,
Right.
so, so when we talk about students, as we were at one time, since we're, you know, talking
Hmm.
about,
Yeah.
um, what are some of the strategies you would recommend for students with NVLD?
One of the first things I would do is definitely tell them to use whatever accommodations have been recommended. Sometimes I know whenever I was in college, I needed to have extended test time. Some might even need the test read aloud to them. I know I had that whenever I was in school. I also had a
Mhm.
note taker, and that was really helpful, especially because when I would have other people study for that. My handwriting is not great. I was so happy when I learned how to type, but if I had somebody else taking the notes, then my mom or somebody else could study with me and be able to read my notes, and that
Mm,
helped. I also recommend using different kinds of adaptive equipment too. I know for
mm,
me, I can't read the face of a clock, so I have my Fitbit as my watch.
mhm,
When I'm in the kitchen, I'm not able to use a manual can opener, so I have an electric one, and that helps me. And I think and it's also focusing on what you're good at, because
mm,
maybe somebody with NVLD may not be great with doing something with math or sports, but there's other things that they're good at. And if we focus on the things that we are good at, then that makes everybody happier, and it definitely can make them feel more productive as well.
right. You know what, though? You kinda make some really good points as well because when I look at a regular clock face, I had to take a minute to think about it, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm serious, I do, I'm not just pointing it, but I do, and so I always hated when I was wearing a watch, especially when I worked retail, when someone would ask me the time, I was like, "Ah, crap," you know what I mean? And I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I love a digital clock just because, like, even when some people say 15 after, 15 till or something, and I would be like I'd get that confused, and I would say the wrong word out of um, frustration, you know what I mean? Then I just
Mhm.
felt like, "Oh gosh, everybody's looking at me. I just screwed that pooch on that one," you know what I mean? And I would know that I was gonna do it, but could not control that I was going to do it. So I feel that aggravation, I really do. You are, like,
Yeah,
speaking my
exactly.
language.
Right, because people will tell me, "Oh yeah, a quarter after," or yeah, and I'm like,
Yes.
"Okay, I don't quite understand that." And then they look at you like, "Well, why don't you?" And then I can remember,
Right.
yeah, asking for what time it was, and people saying, "Well, there's a clock over there," or
Mhm.
there are still people that I work with that try to show people how to tell time on a clock in some of the self-contained classrooms. And when I brought that up, I told somebody who's very old school about that. She goes, "Well, you're not always going to have a clock there, so you might as well learn how to count." Is what she told. That was what she's telling the
Yeah.
kids. And I'm thinking, some of these kids have autism, and I'm thinking that,
Yes.
well, maybe trying to teach that the lesson might be a skill worth learning, but if they can't do it, then I think that it's more of a waste of time, and it's just might be a better idea to get the digital clock out or the digital watch rather than try to waste time on something that may not happen.
I fully agree with that. It's just even like counting money back. Some
Hmm.
people count backwards. Like I know when
Yeah.
my mother's go right, my mother's generation. She told me that how she used to do it when she worked as a waitress, and she
Uh-huh.
would count the money back, and I'd be like looking at her like she was from Mars, and I was like, "What? You do what?" And
Hmm.
I was a manager at a restaurant too in my younger years, and even that, I mean, I would count money back, but it wasn't like, you know what I mean? I tried to be very careful how I did it because I didn't wanna look like I didn't know what I was doing, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
I would count it back. I'd be like, "Okay, you gave me a 20," and then I would count the money out, but I never got the gist of that whole counting backwards. That confused the heck out of me. I just never was able to grasp that.
Exactly. I never got that either. Or when people would start handing like the denominations, like with the counting back, or like the least amount of money first, and then I was thinking, well, that confused me even more.
Ah,
The,
yes,
if
yes.
I yeah, if I know that I get a 20 and you give me some fives and I get a 10, and if I put them in an order with the highest going to the lowest, then I know how much, I have a better idea of how much money I have. And that with money too, it's so interesting. If you give me a credit card or a debit card, that's such an abstract concept. I'll spend more money, and
Mhm.
it's always a surprise when I go to the register. But if you give me a 20, I can visualize the quarters and the dollars
Mm,
disappearing. And I'm not, it's never an exact, but I can get a
mhm.
better range of it.
Well, that's interesting. That is very
Hmm.
interesting. You seem to be very detailed on some things. That's very interesting.
Yep. Yep.
So, when we look at NVLD, what type of, I mean, I know we kind of talked about a little bit, mostly toward money and math, which kind of collide with each other. Tell me about social issues for students that most of us should be aware of if we were in contact with someone with NVLD.
Sometimes someone that has that might think about things really literally. If you tell them to get lost, if somebody gets on your
Ah,
nerves, that person might think, "Oh, I literally have to get. I'm going to. Okay, I'll get lost," and then we're searching for somebody. Or
ah,
and I mean, it's different than having autism. I mean, they're similar, but it's different. And some I can remember too. When I was in my 20s, I was single, and I wonder if I was going to meet somebody. And I remember somebody said, "Well, look around. There's all these guys here." And I said, "Where?" And that's not. And she couldn't understand why I said that. And
Mhm.
it was just, I was tired that night, and I just sometimes, if I'm tired, then sometimes those I might think more literal about something rather than just kind of thinking, okay, somebody's just trying to joke around or kind of prove a point. So that can mean one thing. Spatial relations is a big thing too. I can trip on air, and somebody
Mm,
that has that might look like they're klutzy or they're clumsy, and they might struggle like with playing team sports. That can be really hard. To just be able to coordinate things. My eyes also flinch whenever a ball comes in my direction. So
Mm.
sometimes that can be hard. It can be difficult to manage how much time you have to get ready or to do something. And I mean, that can be hard to make some more in time, or you can also be too early for things as well. It's just sometimes it's just really difficult for a lot of our students because they're going to school, and of course they want to be the athlete, they want to be popular, and it can be hard for someone that has that to be able to fit in and play sports.
Right. I don't know. I'm really relating to a lot of this. It makes me wonder if I should have ever been diagnosed myself. Because I often will run into things when I'm walking or
Hmm.
be a little bit more clumsier than I mean to be. So it makes me wonder about a lot of things. Of course, I'm quite a bit old too, so that might have something to do with it. But yeah, I'm really it does make me wonder about a lot of things. I mean, I'm in my 50s, so
Hmm.
um I there's a lot of things now that I find very interesting that I was not aware of when I was in school. Like as far as like even NVLD. This is actually more new to me now as the diagnosis come more there's more awareness to them. So it's very interesting to hear all this.
Right. And there's,
Um
yeah, and there's not even an official one as of now. I mean, they are trying to get that on whenever they do the latest diagnostic statistics manual. But a lot of
mhm,
people are seeing cases of that. So it's one of those things that they might say, oh, yeah, we think that there's a strong possibility because they just weren't aware of it for so many
all
years.
right. So what's the percentage or you may or may not know. What is the percentage if you do that people in older generations are now being diagnosed with that? Or is it just coming out more in the younger generations?
I'm not sure about how many in the older generation, but it's one of the things that they're coming out with a lot of the younger generations. A lot of them are coming out with people that might have that. And they do things that's slightly different than when I was in school. They'll do occupational therapy now to try to help it. It doesn't cure it, but they might have a student
Mhm.
that just needs that help with their fine motor or their gross motor skills, and we can start that when they're very young. That's one of the things that comes up, and also people are a lot more aware of that. And it's just having that awareness and doing like occupational therapy or having other services and that can really help somebody that has that.
Hmm. So if you could highlight one thing that you could shine a light on from what you learned, excuse me, excuse me, for with NVLD, something that you've overcome, what would that be?
I think the biggest lesson I had to learn was that things are going to get better because when I was very young and I had this and I was really struggling in school, I can just remember telling my dad, oh, I don't think anything's going to get any better. This really is difficult. And my dad told me, things are going to get better for you. Things are going to work out in your life. And he also told me that success doesn't always come in the package that you expect, but sometimes it comes in something better. And for years, I really struggled with that. But I'm happy to report that things really do improve and things do get better just when you least expect it. And you'll find who you're supposed to be with in life. You'll find your tribe. You'll find the things that you're good at and the things that you excel at. And things will be a lot better than before.
Hmm. I really like what your father told you. That is very insightful. That is. I like that. Um, so we've reached that time in the program where I talk
Mhm.
about the Amazon deal of the day. And guys, this is a KitchenAid Artisan Series 5-quart tilt head stand mixer, and I love the colors on these. This one is pistachio, if you ever. It is just awesome. It is down from it's 349.95 with 22% savings. And you can also do the $87.49 for 2 weeks for if you wanted to do a payment plan on it. I love mixers. I don't have the counter space for them, but when I saw this for the deal today, I was like, oh my gosh, I love the pistachio green. That is awesome. all the details and the link will be in the bio if anyone is interested in checking that out. Michelle, you were delightful, very insightful. I found you so entertaining and very interesting to listen to. I wish I had more time to just listen to you and give us all the stuff that you've learned and things that we can grow ourselves on.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, thank you. You can come back anytime. I want to thank
Awesome.
you and I want to thank our listeners. Until next time, guys, have a great evening. Bye bye.